This week on RSBANDB Update, we have more changes for Anachronia, including much-needed world map changes, and big game hunter is much less annoying. The player-owned farm is being tweaked for XP and breeding, and we ask, is it too much? We also speculate what's next on the Nerf bat. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 734, recorded Thursday, July 25th, 2019. Celibate farming. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us once again for another episode of RSBANDB Update. Yes, we are back, and you guys might have noticed that there was no weekly bite this week, but that's because I was off on a little vacation, and that's why we got last week's show out early. But never fear, we're back to our regularly scheduled Thursday RSBANDB update time. Tanis, you're here. Welcome back.
Thank you, Shane.
You were on
I had a little
vacation
myself.
Yeah, last week as well. I don't know. It always feels like vacations can be a little bit more stressful than actually getting back to the grind of things, isn't it?
You know, it's usually that way, but this time we just did small trips, like multiple, so we were really a lot closer to home, and when we ventured out, it'd only be an hour or two away.
That's good.
This is the first time I actually felt refreshed from my vacation in a very long time, and I would unplug usually during the day, just unplug, done. I was with the family. I might get on the computer late at night, but like that whole day, I just set the phone down and just unplug.
Yeah,
I highly recommend it once in a while.
It is very hard to do that in this day and age with mobile gaming and everything to that effect, and will be hard to do that with RuneScape in general. And I'll talk maybe a bit about that after, and some thoughts I've had on my vacation that could inform purchasing decisions going forward, I guess. But nonetheless, I think we should dive into this week's update. And this week is another patch week for Anachronia, and some changes that are brought forward for it, but also some other big revelations that we'll get to in just a bit, that the community is once again divided over. And as has been requested, and as we actually had a bit of a chat about it last night, and we've actually, I think, got both sides on this one covered. And I feel actually kind of dirty about this, but I'll explain that later. Anyways, let's start with the Land Out of Time once again this week, 2 weeks since release, and the patch notes are highlighting over 25 changes and bug fixes to Anachronia. We'll get to most of them in just a couple moments as we dive into the patch notes, but the biggest one first is that the world map has been updated to make it so that it's a lot easier to see what areas you can walk on and what areas you can't walk on.
That's nice. It actually it's helping out a lot. I've gotten around a little bit easier. Like, it's still not easy to get around Anachronia, but it was easier to navigate the mini-map. Yeah. So I'm very appreciative of that. That was a good fix.
And I mean, if you look at this, you can very clearly see the path from base camp down to that first big game hunter area. And then even with this, you can see, moving through the agility shortcuts and whatnot. If you've done it, you can see the agility course making its way through the circle of the island as well. So this is perhaps the biggest one. And, it's just daunting looking at this, how much of the map is not traversable. That big volcano right there. I think that could become a plot point in the future. And then also on the peninsula to the southwest, that is also fairly untraversable, minus a few areas there. And you see, after you pare it all down, the biggest areas that you can actually traverse are the big game hunter areas. So I think
it's helping me get down to like the mining areas.
Okay.
There's some Animica down in the southeast. And so that it's helped a lot to get down there. I was having a lot of trouble earlier.
Very important. Very important. And, this, aside from just the general pathing on the agility course, I think were our two only main issues when this update first came out. And this is one of them that has just been completely fixed away. So that's good, I think. So I'm very happy with that. And
yeah, I am too.
And, when we're nitpicking that the agility course isn't necessarily as clear as it could be in terms of the markings and that the world map isn't clear, I think overall that signifies a pretty good job that was done.
I think so, and I mean, what some may consider nitpicking, I believe we were just shining some light on a pretty important accessibility issue when you're trying to get around the island. But it, like I said, it's a lot better now. So yeah. I'm thankful.
Yeah. And I think the real important thing to remember with this is that 2 weeks on, there's still a steady stream of players who are interacting with that content there.
Yeah, it turns out that base camp stuff going to take a lot longer than I thought. I thought I'd be done with that by now.
No. I'm very close to getting my tier 2 sleeping quarters, and of course the reason I want to do that is because that lets me gather more resources, and then everything else will speed up after that. So
that's what I'm working on now. I have the tier 2 town hall and the tier 2 storehouse. I just need the
I should be getting that one tonight.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive into the actual changes, starting off with Big Game Hunter. Strange rocks can be obtained when you're skinning a creature. That seems like something that was just omitted or forgotten, so not much to write home about there. The aggression circle now syncs better with the dinosaur's position after it has eaten the Jadinkos, which is something that we talked about last week as being an addition to Big Game Hunter, which, when you think about it, it kind of threw its own wrench into the equation of doing Big Game Hunter. Jadinkos will no longer spawn in the lowest tier encounters, so those are the ones, of course, that you use the raw shark and manta ray bait for, and I'm forgetting the third piece of standard bait that you would use for that, but anyways, this is the arcane Apatosaur, the Cimatops, and the Bagrata Rex. And boy, I messed that one up. And Tycho in chat says sailfish is the other piece of bait. Thank you. Once one Jadinko has been eaten by the dinosaur, the rest will now disappear. Makes sense. The chance of Jadinkos spawning in an encounter has been halved. And one of the hard paths has been removed from the arcane Apatosaur, which is, of course, the lowest level creature. I think the Jadinko changes are good, especially for the Big Game Hunter events in mid-tier, because, I think what RuneScape players get the most angry about in this day and age, aside from Dailyscape, is randomness. Unnecessary randomness.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the changes that they're making to Big Game Hunter, and I don't remember if this was in our. I know I saw this in some chat we were affiliated with, but someone had brought up the point: is this what we could expect from a skilling boss? And I thought that was actually a really good point, and I thought maybe I don't know, maybe this is a small scale trial run for something like that.
Yeah. I think there is going to be a skilling boss in Old School Pref.
Yeah, they already had it, though, didn't they? I'm pretty sure they already had a skilling boss. But for us, even though I wanted it, I couldn't really imagine how it would work or what it would look like. And I never even thought about this Big Game Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter. I think Hunter is the logical step for it. And you're not using weapons to kill the creature. You're using hunter emplacements. And, when you think about it, that is what you would do in a skilling boss. I remember somebody saying once upon a time that you would plant traps for something to kill the boss. And lo and behold, here we are, something to that effect. Also,
yeah, so that's definitely made me a little more comfortable with Big Game Hunter, I think.
Yeah, you got to treat it as a bossing encounter.
Mm-hmm.
Also on that note, the next Clan Cup Jagex is going to host is going to be geared around Big Game Hunter.
Okay.
I know at Clan Quest we're looking at if we want to run something to this effect. And what they're doing with it this time is they're making it so that the top 10 Big Game Hunter clan members from each clan will have a score associated with them. So it doesn't matter if your clan has 500 or 10. Whoever is the most efficient is going to win. So it's something that we're looking at, and if we can find the organizers, we'll bring it to the clan membership. Also on Big Game Hunter, the aggression circle will now better sync with the dinosaur's position after it has eaten the Jadinko. I'm sorry, I just read that second patch note again. I scrolled up the page when I shouldn't have. The next one on this list, the one that you guys haven't heard yet, is that you can now note damaged dinosaur hides. And, of course, the damaged dinosaur hides are just, I guess you could call it a token handout for a 5k free high elk.
Okay.
Got to Go Around It has been added to an achievement on Anachronia. And what this one is this makes it so that if you manage to complete an entire game of Big Game Hunter, you complete an entire game of Big Game Hunter and you don't enter the circle, you get an achievement for doing that. Which, when you think about it, that would be pretty hard, right?
Yes, that would. Yes.
The next one that was added was In and Out, Nice and Slow, which is another Big Game Hunter achievement that has been added this week. You know, I think it's good that they're adding these achievements throughout and they're sprinkling them in. Makes sense that they could add an Anachronia task set at some point, I think.
Yeah, I would assume that was coming.
Yeah, because there's lots of achievements. They might as well. But In and Out, Nice and Slow is requiring you to complete an encounter of Big Game Hunter without using movement abilities like Surge or Escape.
It's going to get... But you can do it, but it's going to be rough. Like, it's definitely going to be a challenge.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to try that personally. If you purchase the bait box upgrade, you'll now find a bait box in the base camp, which also accepts noted bait for Big Game Hunter. And, you know, I think this is something that if you want to be doing Big Game Hunter efficiently when it comes time for the Clan Cup, this is something you're going to want to have. And I don't know if people will have this by the time the Clan Cup kicks off. So that's something also to think about.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there for this week. Moving on to general Anachronia changes. First up, we already talked about the world map being updated. Totem pieces will now be correctly added to your inventory if you have one space, as opposed to requiring 2 free spaces, as was the case beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, I wonder what would happen if you tried to get a totem before and you only had 1 free space. What would happen?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Like, would you miss out on the totem chance? Because that would be horrific if that happened.
Yeah. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Someone might have had a bad day.
Yeah. And, you know, there's lots of bad days that happen when it comes to RNG like that. So let's just be thankful that this has been fixed. And that's another reason that, you know, typically when I'm doing things, I don't run around without a full inventory, right? So, moving on, purchasing totem pieces from the Herbie Werby reward shop with a full inventory will no longer consume spirit points and not award a totem piece. Once again, the full inventory issue.
Yeah. Huh.
I mean, it'd be good to have these things tested beforehand, but when you think about it, these are kind of edge cases. So that's why they're not tested. And I just say this because I know there are people out there who are saying, why wouldn't this be tested beforehand? But when you're dealing with something as big as Anachronia, things like this around the edges, so to speak, are going to get missed.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I guess the only counterpoint I would have would be that if anybody's known to be hoarders, it's probably RS players. So if anyone's going to have a full inventory, it's us.
True.
But otherwise, no, yeah, you can't possibly catch everything, but I'm glad it did get caught now.
Yeah. The segment XP bonus for the Anachronia agility course has been redistributed throughout the tiers as the lower segments were too powerful.
I don't have enough time on the agility course to even know if that's to know if I would agree with that or not.
Yeah, and as for me, I've just been focused on getting the codex pages as well. So I haven't tested any sub-circuits on that because 99 agility, and I mean, my goal with that course is to get the pages. So,
right. I mean, if you're not going for 120, then why would you ever really want to do agility again? I mean, unless it's for the codex. I mean, I probably wouldn't do it for XP because I just don't love agility.
Yeah.
Unless you want to put the boots on. I mean...
Silverhawk boots.
Gotta be efficient, man. Gotta be efficient.
Oh, that pains me. Clean Arbuck will be now transported to the bank when harvested in conjunction with the Grace of the Elves necklace.
Oh, that's good.
And see, this is the thing with Grace of the Elves and Porters is that the items that are added are not dynamic. They're all list-based. So,
I just bought my second one of the Grace of the Elves.
Why do you need
Junior
two?
has one.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so I have one for each. That way I can just mine and just go crazy.
Oh, your junior character's not an Iron Man? I thought it was.
Yeah, but he's mining for resources for the main for certain DXP weekends when certain competitions are running. Yeah.
So you're doing it as an unofficial Iron Man then, so it can trade.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yes.
And Lantadimi incense sticks now correctly work with the new stamina potion. And that's it for the Anachronia changes that we chose to highlight here. And what we're seeing here is a fully rounded piece of content that is, I guess, evolving with the game updates as they progress along. So that's good. I think Anachronia is in a good place.
I mean, I want to see where we go from here. I mean, right now, yeah, it's definitely in a good place. But I do want to see what is to come.
Yeah, I'm anticipating a quest next month.
And I'm feeling like there's more.
There's more
to
right.
this. It's such a
we
big
haven't scratched the surface because all those Dragonkin statues sitting there, not just sitting there to look pretty, right?
Yeah. I think we had enough to make people say, "Okay, this was good," but I don't think we know what it's still in store, for that.
And it's an expansion by any other name, which is something we came up with on last week's show and was one of our nibbles.
Yeah. Well, we can't call it that. We don't want to do that, right?
Because that's what it is.
But I think that nibble actually did bring up a question, a good question, I thought, in thinking, if you were to think about this as an expansion, which it pretty much is, if we were under a different model, would you be willing to buy it?
Oh.
You see what I mean? Like, if this was, like in another game, when they come out with an expansion, you buy that DLC.
Yeah.
And that made me go, okay, well, if we really think this is an expansion, would I be willing to buy this? And I don't know yet. I think I would, but it depends on how much. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. That's interesting. I didn't think of it that way. All right, moving on to some other fixes that are combat related this week. Drinking an aggro overload potion while using potion share on a co-op Slayer task will now correctly display the overload buff icon on the buff bar. The correct level requirement for creating an aggro overload potion has been added to the Herblore skill guide. Now here's a big one. The attack, ranged, and magic bonuses of the max comp and trimmed comp capes have been increased from 26 to 31. Now, also with this, their respective attack, ranged, and magic bonuses of the kiln capes have been increased from 31 to 33.
I have a real question about this. I don't really know why this happened.
Because there's a difference of 2 now. Previously, there was a difference of 5.
Yeah.
I
mean, you're still going to wear
slot.
I mean, you're still going to wear your kiln cape, but it seems like it really buffed the really buffs the others, which I don't have a problem with. It's just that I would love to know why I thought this was necessary.
Yeah, because there was something special about having a clear best in slot cape, right? And
right,
I mean, you're still going to get that, and you're still going to get that even if you have the Reaper Crew achievement done with this. And we talked about this before. People are going to do whatever they can to get that extra +2.
Yeah, they will, and that's what I'm saying. So it's not. My question really isn't in that regard, but why was the stats deemed not too low, essentially, on the others? So, I don't know. I'm just curious.
It's
about
because
that
there's I think, and I don't have any evidence to back this up. I think it's because there's a segment of the population who had the comp cape before who just, see no reason to wear it at all right now if they have the kiln.
Well, okay. What? That's okay, right? Because this is what we wanted. Like, we wanted you to wear a kiln cape if you're doing combat. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. Touching
touching
that old nerve of the comp cape rework.
Yeah.
Further optimizations have been made to the action bar script, and the note with this one is that it will fix some of the issues with the dead clicks issue, but not all of them. An NXT fix is still ongoing, which, as of the time of recording this, should be coming out soon. The NXT fix for the dead clicks. So
yeah, didn't Shawnee put out a statement on that?
Yeah, he did.
It's supposed to be coming. Yeah,
I think it might even be coming tomorrow with a warm.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So
yep.
Yeah. Food with potions on an action bar keybind will now display as active. Now displays as active while you're still carrying any. Okay, that's a weird sentence, but what that effectively means is that as long as you have the food or potion, it will display as active, and if you don't, it will turn off correctly. That's been an issue for a long, long time. Glad to see it fixed. You no longer need to dismiss pets and familiars before entering the ancient cavern via the whirlpool.
That's good if you still use a yak, and you need food and stuff to go in there. Well, if you're not using like a fairy ring or something like that.
True, but remember, this is targeted at mid-levels because down there, mid-levels, you have the water fiends, right? And those are really good mid-level Slayer tasks, and you might not have access to the fairy rings, and you might need, your bunyip down there. And remember that at mid-level, the bunyip is very important for healing because it can eat raw food and transfer that health to you, which you get tons of down there.
And yeah, that's good because if you're doing water fiends at quote unquote mid level, you're gonna struggle a little bit. I think.
And they're also really good for red charms as well. So.
Oh, they're wonderful.
Yeah,
but water fiends is something even at in game level I'll still do. Because of the charms,
and aren't there higher level ones you can do at end game as well? End game level, I think.
I am not sure. I know if you go down there and you get a little too cocky and you're using your aggro potions and all that, and you don't pay attention, they can they can hurt you if you're not paying attention.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Get too many on you,
Yeah. Okay. Now moving on to one of our favorite Slayer updates of all time, the Mammoth. Mammoths have been updated so that a lot of the Mammoth attacks in melee, ranged, charge attacks, and whatnot, they were all overlapping each other, so that has been fixed. Those are always a pain to kill, aren't they?
They're a pain to kill, and when was the last time you saw someone rolling around with a Mammoth? I've yet to see it, man.
Back in the olden days when people were savages. thousands of years ago.
Okay, I got that. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you didn't see him.
I never see that familiar. Like, it's never out.
You never see him for long because they're long dead after that. The mammoths are dead too,
that's true.
but the person who was trying to take on that mammoth was dead before the mammoth died. So
yeah, he's frozen.
Yeah. Mammoths will also no longer attempt to punish the player for kiting them so early to prevent the player being stunned while evading single attacks. So this basically allows you to kite them early, and remember, that's one of the key mechanics for it.
Mm-hmm.
The ranged attacks now deal damage when the projectile connects rather than when it's launched, allowing for better use of defensive options, which is what EOC was designed for, and it's good to see that timing has been taken into account. If the game detects that you have a flanking weapon in either your backpack or worn equipment, it will now display a flanking icon on the monster bar to inform you that your flanking perk will now work in this position. Now, is it just me with this one, or do I feel like we had this exact same patch note before, and this is an issue that has been fixed previously?
Yeah, it sounded really familiar.
It sounded very similar to something else. So, I don't know. Maybe the listeners can inform us on that. Increase the buy limit on the grand exchange of ancient scales and draconic energy from 200 to 1,000. And these are the currencies for Elite Dungeon 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, the interesting part about this is that Elite Dungeon 2 is good for, of course, Slayer, right? But it's not necessarily the most profitable one. So I'm thinking that maybe this might be in an attempt to create more demand for these ancient scales to create the Elite Serenic gear.
Yeah, I would guess that is the case.
Sorry. Ancient scales do come from Siriu. So this is a buff for all Elite Dungeons.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, Siriu, that's the new one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, I think buffs for Elite Dungeons are probably called for.
You sure about that?
Well, but when it comes to like
I happen
buy
to
limits
know
and stuff, I'm not a big fan of like limiting that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Buy limits and stuff.
I happen to know that David has been having a lot of fun recently with Elite Dungeon 1.
He went back to the 1.
Yeah, he did, because it's apparently very profitable.
See, PVM is one of those things that's so dynamic that it's hard to keep up from 1 month to the next.
Yeah.
With things rising and falling.
Mm-hmm. Sentinel fragments can now be earned when engaging in the Evil Tree D&D. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
The sliders of FreeCam's rotation and speed settings now update accordingly. And the speed of FreeCam can go now all the way to 1024. So if you want, a camera that can spin around really, really quickly, this is the option for you. And, I mean, go for it. But personally, I find the default camera speed settings just fine for me.
I wouldn't want to increase it because it'd probably make me nauseous.
Yeah.
If it was too quick.
That's exactly the sense that I got. Now, this next one is for all those people who spent all the time in the world at Castle Wars. The Profound Halo has been added to the head overrides section of the cosmetics interface. This is, of course, for earning the Profound title at Castle Wars.
So this is the solution.
Yeah. And they got a picture of it in the news post. And, if I spent that much time at Castle Wars and I was awarded with this little Halo thing, I don't know how I'd be feeling today.
I would probably be upset. At the same time, I would also know that I probably AFK'd most of that. So, I mean, gosh, it's really hard. I think it was kind of a crazy comp rec to begin with. And I mean, so what do you do when something is a little outrageous to begin with? When do you fix it? I feel like that's going to be a theme ongoing. How you do that.
I mean, we asked for more focus on skilling, and here we are. The door is hitting us on the head each and every time.
Oops.
So, but, we're foreshadowing here. Foreshadowing the future.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, at least you got something, but...
The truth of the matter is this achievement should never have been added.
Yes, that...
It's piss poor game design to add
it. I agree, and I'm just going to say that I do understand the sentiment of being upset with your little Halo. Like, all I can say is I understand. I feel your pain, and I guess we're all taking a knock here and there.
Yeah. All right. Hopefully we can close that chapter and move on. Yep. Changes to the Charos clue carrier. An item tooltip is now generated for the clue carrier, showing your clues and caskets inside of it. Messaging has been added to tell you when a clue has been added to your clue carrier. And when finishing a clue with the Charos clue carrier with you, it'll now try and remove a new tiered clue based on the one you did from the clue carrier, allowing you to start that new clue right away.
Where have I been? What the clue carrier?
Yeah, that was a...
where'd this come from?
That was a result from Desperate Times.
Oh, that's why I didn't know about it. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Now I know.
Yeah,
I never got through that puzzle.
What puzzle?
It's all individualized. That puzzle in Desperate Times.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I didn't know. I was like, where? Clue carrier? I know I didn't miss this. Where did this come from?
Yeah, and see the discussion we had on the episode back then is that that was, I believe, the episode Diana was on. It's called a puzzle, but in reality what it was just a couple of little quick mini games, but there was some accessibility issues for you, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll get it someday. This isn't the first time this has happened in a quest. It's happened a few times, and usually if I bang my head against the wall long enough,
at least it's not the tree, right?
Somehow we'll get through. Yeah, it's not. Yes, it's not that. It's not Dishonor Amongst Thieves, and it's not the Firemaker's Curse. So,
and you didn't need to clear cut an entire forest.
And I didn't have to do that either. So, I'm still hopeful that I will get through it. It's one of those things that is very frustrating to me, and I can only try it for a short amount of time and then go back to it.
Fair enough. Removed a message box when using the teleport option on elite skilling outfits, allowing you to get to your teleports much more quickly. That's how they should be. Yeah, that's how a teleport should be. And this also, of course, while a usability change for PC folks is a huge improvement for people on mobile as well.
Oh, yeah, I bet it would be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Snakes at the Draculith mine south of Taibo Wanai, and those at the light Anamika mine near Polnivniach have migrated and should no longer bother players with a low combat level.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. This is something that used to be really apparent, and I'm glad we're seeing a resurgence of it, is that skilling should not interfere with combat, and especially with creatures attacking one another. I've heard the story too many times of skillers being killed by cows, for example. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Especially when you think you're doing something safe, and so you might be studying or working on your homework, and you look up and you're like, death.
Yeah,
what?
that was also the feature of the old-fashioned random events too, that you always had to be a lookout because you might get an evil chicken that would come and kill you.
I hated that stuff so bad.
A toggle has been added to the Legendscape, allowing the player to choose whether to teleport to the gates or within the guild.
Legendscape getting some love.
Excellent. The Soul Vampire. I wonder, we don't have access to that, do we, in the teleport spellbook?
No, and I wondered about that,
We
too.
should have access to that. Unlocking that, I think.
I kind of thought so.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to make a note about this and tweet this section of the episode out to people with us talking about this, because this is something that, granted, yes, we have Max, yes, we have Manor Farm, but we should definitely have the ability to go to Legends Guild in the teleport book, right?
For sure. And you know what? More on that later from me. Personally.
Okay. The Soul Vampire book found in Goshima after the Curse of the Blackstone quest is now correctly readable in non-English languages. Also, a typo has been corrected.
All right. Well, when I pick up my second language, I'll check that out.
Yeah, it should be German, right?
I don't know what it would be. Probably Spanish, really.
Okay.
Right? I'm American, right?
Yeah, and by that extension, French would be mine. So.
Right. Okay.
The ore box tooltip has been adjusted to stop visual clipping when using a large variety of ores. It's been an issue for a long time. Good. Mm-hmm. In addition to the Y and N keybinds for confirming item destruction, Control A now triggers the all option. This is not a good idea.
Nice.
This is not a good idea.
Not?
No, it's not. Because
I was just wondering, because everything else is Control A means all, so I thought that might be good.
Because you're 2 keystrokes away from accidentally destroying a stack of something. Here's why. 1, you need to press Enter in order to chat. And if you type with proper grammar like I do, you still capitalize the first letter of every sentence that you type in RuneScape, even though the game does it for you. And what is the character that is immediately below the Shift key? Control.
Oh.
Yeah. So if for some reason you forget to press Enter and then you think you're starting typing, you press Control A and you just happen to have one of these windows up, bye-bye to the entire stack.
Oh.
I think this one is a horrible idea.
That does change. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of weird, because when you think about, like, on one hand, I thought, oh, this is good because Control A's, that's always like everything.
Yeah.
And then
and plus,
but no,
Control
right.
Plus also there's the motif that Control A is never destructive in anything else you do on your computer. It's just select all. So why should it be this destructive in RuneScape?
Huh.
So the usability of this, it looks like a nice option on the surface, but from a usability perspective, it's all wrong to have this in here.
No, I'm glad you elaborated on that, because I was caught on the surface level of it. But and that's entirely possible for me to do, man.
Uh-huh.
Like, I hit wrong keys.
Yep.
Fairly regularly.
Yep.
Okay.
The quest outfit is now removed from the Lorehound pet if all the quests are not complete after obtaining the outfit previously, which makes sense because you can't wear the quest cape, so you shouldn't be able to wear the quest outfit. The falling auras now have wing overrides can now be found in the customization interface, including the Festive Illumination, Salvation, Corruptive, and Harmony auras. So the auras that provide wings have just been moved to the cosmetics area. What this one means.
I wonder how that works, though, because there are times in the year when they're not cosmetic,
then you get the aura back, because the next patch noticed that the illumination aura has been removed.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The dedicated Slayer and Majorad auras are now in the combat aura category rather than skilling, and Daemonheim auras will now automatically remove when leaving a dungeon. That's good.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got your Daemonheim aura yet, Shane?
I got phase 2, but
okay.
My problem is the Fremnik sagas.
They're fun, though, man. You're such a quester. They're actually fun.
I know. They're good quests, and they're good stories, and they're good lore. But they have aged so horribly, so much so that the first cutscene and the second one has you staring at a black wall when it's supposed to be a cutscene.
Oh no!
So
see, and I did them a long time ago.
Right.
So.
They really haven't aged with the new interface, large interfaces and whatnot. So, and I mean,
Well, that's fair.
the characters in there are designed clearly to not use EOC abilities, yet it makes it feel as though you can use EOC abilities with them. And I don't know. I just find it all very, very confusing and very obtuse, controlling the players the way they are.
The good news is your tier 2 is just fine as long as you got somebody in the party that has the full.
We have that. Tier 3. We have that. It's now possible to own multiple pairs of fancy boots and fighting boots. Of course, the fancy boots being the rainbow ones, multiples of all of the 3 types of the Mage Arena God Capes, and multiple of achievement set equipment, including the previous tiers, and one of each of the family crest gauntlets.
We had rainbow boots?
Yeah, that's what the fancy boots are from. I believe it was the Stronghold of Players' Safety? Security? One of those two.
We need to get Sirion rainbow boots ASAP. Like, as soon as possible. He needs some rainbow boots. It'd really go with the outfit.
Okay.
Yeah, rainbow boots, short shorts. Yeah, it'll work. It'll work well.
Might as well get him the rainbow cape while you're at it, too.
Or the scarf. The scarf, man.
But I also think Pride Month is a month over, so.
Oh, it is, but it just goes with his outfit. It would look sharp, you know?
And, if there was one character to dress up like that, he would be the one.
It would.
Added 25, 50, 75, and 100% chance to spawn an additional Chompy Bird while hunting Chompy Birds, respectively, if the easy, medium, hard, and elite Ardoyan achievement diaries have been completed.
That's good.
This should help with that Chompy Bird hunting task, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure it'll help with the, 5,000 kills you have to get of them? Or is that 1,000 kills? I forget
5,000.
It's a lot. It's
5,000,
lot.
I think. Yeah. Jadinko hunting has been added to the D&D tracker. Okay. Familiars, special moves that can now be cast near obelisks. This in turn fixes an issue where the Meerkat's fetch casket spell couldn't be cast in the Caridian Desert south of the Penguin's TARDIS. I wonder why that was a thing. You could never cast familiar special moves near obelisks. And hey, they're actually calling it the Penguin TARDIS here when it wasn't called that in game, but everybody knew that's what it was. That was a fun quest to talk about. We tied it all into Star Trek and whatnot on that episode. That was really fun.
Yeah, penguins are always fun.
Yeah. If you have max or near max of a certain currency when attempting to receive it from a reward chest, it will now no longer allow you to claim it.
Okay.
So I guess the idea behind this is that if you tried to claim it, you would be able to claim just to the maximum and you would lose the rest of it.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. That's what I read into that one.
Okay. I'm trying to think of what kind of currency you would run into that with, but drawing a blank.
I don't know, because it does say a chest.
Yeah.
Maybe if you had 2 billion GP in your money pouch and you tried to thieve from a chest, that would be it. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, maybe. Sure. Okay.
You will now receive magical thread when crafting combination runes, because this is one of the areas you were supposed to get magical thread from. The other one was when you were rune crafting through the abyss, and recall that magical thread is what you need now to create the rune pouches that PVMers so often covet. And the 2 music tracks for Angel of Death are now unlocked on entry into the arena. And there's our patch notes for the week. Lots of them this week. I think the biggest one was probably the Anachronia world map one.
It definitely was for me, because like I said, I was able to spend. I mean, I've spent the entire week there with the main, and balancing between the lodestone and then going to the mining area, it's been so much easier.
You use the agility course to get around, or you just walk?
I've been walking.
Okay.
But that's an improvement, because I was having trouble walking before. So I agree that that's definitely the patch of the week.
Alrighty. Well then, I think it's time to strap in yet again for another episode where we talk about skilling changes that, we brought this upon ourselves, Tanis, the players. We brought this upon ourselves. You know why?
Because we asked for improvements?
Uh-huh. And then after the big game hunter, or rather after the hunter rebalance, there was a huge push saying, hey, let's look at the player-owned farm. Whoop-de-doo, and here we are. We have the rundown of what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
And I just want to put this out here.
Stepped in a big old cow patty there, though.
The biggest thing that is being talked about with this is the breeding in the non-breeding pen. And just for information's sake, to put this out there so everybody's operating on the same information here, the ability to have your animals breed in the non-breeding pen came out the week after the player-owned farm did, and that was RSBANDB update 688. Do you remember the discussion we had on that episode?
No.
I, at that point, pointed out to the player base that when you get the small, medium, and large pens all breeding together, and then you get the big breeding pen going for the things that take the longest time to breed, you're going to have a runaway situation with experience in the player-owned farm. And lo and behold, that actually happened. It's not uncommon, I'd say, at mid-levels to probably get around 500k farming XP a week from the player-owned farm. At the high levels, 92 plus, chalk that up to probably close to 1 million XP a week, I'd say, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with your numbers there. And I don't think anyone is losing sleep over the XP portion of this.
Of the nerf. Okay, let's talk about that then right now first. Let's get that one out of the way. So the player-owned farm is going to be toned down a lot. And I want to point out a key word here, or rather a key sentence, is that we've been monitoring the content since release along with your feedback and feel like the activity is giving out too much farming experience, heavily devaluing other training messages, full stop. Now, we'll get into the XP and the changes with the XP in just a moment here, but we need to be real here and have a look at what seeds were doing prior to the player-owned farm. Now, the farm came out in September of 2018, and at that point in time, magic seeds were around 122k each in early September of 2019, or 2018 rather. But prior to that, I don't know, for some reason they shot up prior to the release of the farm. Maybe people thought that there'd be a run on them or something to that effect. But prior to that, they were hovering at around 90k. Now, if we look at the, say, 30-day average of a magic seed, they have had a 30-day average of around 17k in GP. So you can see the huge drop there. But if we go back all the way to the beginning of magic seeds, you'll see that, if we go back to 2016, they were at 77k, 75k. We go back to 2015, they were at 125k. 2014, 150k. 2012, 322k. 2013, 221k. And if we go all the way back to 2010, 349, 350k for magic seeds around then. All in all, since magic seeds first came out, they have had a 168,294 GP average value on them. And, we can say that the player-owned farm has devalued other farming methods. And, just looking at the graph of the magic seed, you can definitely see that it has. It's gone down ever so steadily since the farm came out. But if the XP nerf of the player-owned farm is designed purely to get seeds back in a favorite spot and, make it so that the tree runs are something people are going to be spending on seeds again, this update to the player-owned farm will not do that. It simply will not. And the reason for that is if you look at the list of drops for a magic seed, magic seeds are primarily dropped by PVM creatures, including none other than, Araxor, Barrows sometimes, Strike Worms, and the Calphite King as well. And, when you think about it, Araxor is a fairly common boss that you can go kill. And if we're really, really wanting to look at the issue with seeds, I think we also need to look at it from the PVM perspective as well on this, in addition to the player-owned farm.
Yeah, I mean that's my
take on the XP side of this nerf. In that, I don't think we're going to see seeds shoot up and a resurgence in tree runs because of this.
I don't either. I don't think that it's possible. And I'm not sure that it's necessary. We don't try to save other training methods and other skills like that, like we're doing with seeds for some reason. There's this hollowed ground of seeds. Like I don't get that. But yeah, why aren't we addressing how the seeds come into the game rather than just hitting the farm saying, "Oh, that's good"? And like I said, if you were to tweak how seeds are being dropped in conjunction with an XP decrease on the farm, I think that would have been enough. I don't think you would have had the same issues. You'd have a whole different set of issues of people that were angry about.
You know what? There's another way. We're picking on PVM, and we're, of course, picking on Araxor for Magic Seeds and the Calphite King as well to a lesser degree on that because it's not farmed as much, pardon the pun. But, there was also another update that happened that did cause the Magic Seeds to go down in value and seeds in general, and that was warbands. So if we're going to be looking at it from this perspective, and we want seeds to go back up in value, and we want that to be a valued method of training farming, we also need to look at PVM drops, and we need to look at farming XP coming out of warbands. If we're looking at just the player-owned farm, then that's the discussion we're going to have. But if we want to look at the farming skill as a whole, we need to look at the other sources as well.
And if you're looking at farming as a whole, okay, and you're really worried about tree runs, why would inexpensive tree seeds be a problem? Wouldn't you be happy it's cheaper to train? Like, there's no one is telling you not to do tree runs.
Yeah.
There's no reason that you wouldn't do tree runs. And you're getting the seeds cheaper. So I don't know why we're trying to prop up something. I don't know why we're trying to prop up seeds when that's usually not done anywhere else. It's not that I can recall. Maybe you might have a longer memory than I do when it comes to that. But
propping up seeds.
Well, but we don't. I'm just saying we don't prop up other things.
Yeah.
Like when something new comes out and it surpasses. And what the old stuff was, we don't prop up the old stuff. And you know what?
The next thing that we need to, if we're on this path, if we're truly on this path of adjusting skilling methods that are deemed too powerful, we also need to look at safe cracking. If this is the path that we're on, where we're looking at the arc in terms of the hunter turtles, we're looking at the player-owned farm in terms of its own little thing, then we should also look at safe cracking. But I think also a wider look at each of these skills needs to be taken into account, like they did with Hunter, They need to do the same with farming. Look at warbands, look at the seeds, and, do it for thieving too. Look at safecracking, look at Prif, where it's at right now. And, there's one other big one that if we're on this path, and we really want to be on this path of adjusting skilling methods, there's one big culprit that nobody has dared touch. Do you know what it is?
Enlighten me.
The waterfall.
Well, yeah, I guess that's if you agree with being on this path.
Exactly.
Which I don't.
Now, let's get back to the player-owned farm, because that was a little roundabout discussion, I feel.
Right.
The seeds are great. It's a core method of training farming. I would love for people to do that more. But as it is right now, the way this is detailed out, I do not believe that these changes as listed here will help seed farming. So let that be known.
No, and you know why I think that ends up being a plank or a bullet point in this? Because skillers don't have a representative body like the Combat Council.
Well, we apparently have the Skilling Council, but they've never been introduced.
I don't. You know what? I'll believe it when I see it.
Okay.
Because the Combat but seriously, Shane, the Combat Council is out there, and they're like, whoa. This is our stuff. We're working very hard. We're going to make, look at how active the Combat Council was with the mining and smithing network, and what would go in and what wouldn't.
We nearly lost the high-tiered smithable armor because of that.
Right. But there's no, if there is this incandescent skilling council, I don't know what they're doing, because I want to see someone that with balance on that side, so that someone would have said, hey, this isn't going to address the seed issue. If that's what we're trying to address, this isn't going to do it. That shouldn't have taken Shane on a podcast to figure that out.
Yeah.
No.
And this should be something that should have been talked about on this week's live stream. But instead,
they didn't want to touch it.
No, I know.
No, they didn't want to touch it.
I know.
And to me, that looks. Look, I'm not saying it's underhanded. It looks that way because you just snuck in a huge nerf under essentially an expansion, hoping no one would really notice or get fired up.
And I suggested that was a good idea to do it. But the difference with this one is there's not going to be anything with this farm release, I think, next month, unless they slip it in with the quest or something.
That won't be enough.
Yeah. But, all right, let's dive into this. So XP from the player-owned farm is going to now be modified by the health and happiness of the animal on checking it, ranging from 10 to 70% of the original value based on how well the animal is cared for. So what that means is that right now everything will be nerfed by a flat-out 70% if everything is completely happy and healthy.
That's the key, though, because if you look at what it's going to require to keep them happy and healthy, it's really a lot more dramatic than that.
Yeah. All right.
The feeding is it's a problem.
Yeah. So
in my opinion,
let's move on to that next one. The food rate has been modified. Small animals will need one food every 18 minutes. Medium every 36 minutes, or 3 every 36 minutes, and large needs 6 every 54 minutes. So just doing some quick numbers there, rounding up 54 minutes to 1 hour. Actually, we can do this a bit better. There's 1,440 minutes in a day, so take that into 54. So your large things will need to eat 26, let's just round that up to 27 times a day. And they're going to need 6 food. They're going to need 162 food a day, your large pens. Times that by 2, 324 food in your large pens just for 1 day. So if you want to leave it for 1 week, 2,268 food in your large pen.
Yeah.
Let's do the same for the medium ones. 1,440 minutes into 36. So they're going to eat 40 times a day, and they need 3. So that's 120 for each one. Times that by 2, you got 240. That's for one day, and you want to leave that for a week. That's 1,680, and that's where this gets largely very confusing and, scary. Because the cheapest kind of mushroom that you're going to use to feed your mushroom zygomite critters, and you're going to need 1,680 of them for a week, is a Garagian mushroom. And those are currently going for 2,837 GP. That's 4.7 mil a week just to feed all your zygomites.
And, that's expensive and kind of hard now. The only thing I ever run out of or ever gets neglected is my zygomites because of how expensive and the mushrooms are. And this is a particular issue for the Iron Man. And look, I'm not someone that I believe an Iron Man game is challenging by nature. I think it should be challenging by nature. I don't think it should be near insurmountable. And for them, there's what are you going to do? I mean, you're going to spend hours and hours and hours and hours down at the Ark.
Yeah. And by the way, this is only for one creature because each creature needs to eat. So, multiply it. Do the math. Have fun.
It's
Explore
dramatic.
The numbers.
It's dramatic.
Now, I have to say that you do have a horse in this race as well. I want to bring this out as full disclosure right now that I have my own horse in this race, which I think everybody has their own horse in their race, and we need to,
of course, get
this out there. My horse is that I don't care about farming XP anymore, so I don't care about these changes. I actually enjoy these changes and want them to happen for my own pocketbook, for Shane's pocketbook, and here's why. Mm-hmm. Because I have these things called flowers, and I have these things called woad leaves that are going to produce honeycombs, delicious honeycomb to boost happiness and medicinal honeycomb to boost health. And if people are optimizing their farm, there's going to be a demand for these honeycombs after this update hits. So that's money that I see that I can make. I also see that I can make money by collecting mushrooms, by doing Garage and Slayer tasks. I also see that I can make money by selling animals with more preferred traits to keep them happier. So everything that I see on here, I see it as a money-making opportunity for me, having largely completed the farm. So from my perspective, this is a good update, and Shane wants it to go forward. But when it comes down to it, it's not going to, of course, affect the seeds as we talked about. And I think we can move on into the biggest part of this now is the breeding changes, in particular that breeding in non-breeding pens is 5 times less likely to succeed and 5 times slower.
It's, once again, I'm using this word a lot, but it's dramatic. I mean, I've seen some numbers on this, and it's, I don't look for this to actually. This is going to be adjusted. It has to be. You're going from what was it? I think 20 hours on a dragon to 80 hours.
Yeah.
Possibly?
So for a Chinchompa right now, they have a breeding time of 2 hours 30 minutes, with a 60% success rate. So doing the math on that takes it up to 12 hours 30 minutes and down to 12% success chance. That's 12% in a small breeding pen. For zygomites, this brings them up to 41 hours from 8 hours, 20 minutes. And a 14% chance to breed. Dragons used to be 16, now 83 hours and 20 minutes. Now, once again, I need to bring full disclosure here to this one in that I never used my large pens for breeding because I was always breeding my dragons in my breeding pen, and the only pen I used for breeding was my medium pen for zygomites to get beans. So once again, this update does not affect me.
Oh, it will. You won't get your beans from your
But I don't need beans. I bought
fortune.
everything from the farm.
Oh, well, I mean, that's fine. Beans are still important to me, but...
Yeah, of course. They're important to everybody.
Right.
And This update came out a week after the player-owned farm was first released, the breeding and non-breeding pens, and this is, I think, the central issue for this one here right now, because, just looking at the numbers and imagining how this works, you can get a boatload of XP coming off of even your Chinchompas in small pens, believe it or not. And Zygomites in the medium pens.
I believe that. And I think that's why people they accept the fact that an XP nerf is called for. Now, I don't know what those numbers are. I don't know how dramatic that needs to be. That I'm not stepped in that. I don't know that.
And to be fair, no player should make that assessment because you don't have the full internal metrics of how the farm has been used.
Right. So, I'm not speaking to that other than saying that most people recognize that and say, okay, we accept that. And of course, like you said, I think we all come from a certain perspective, and from my perspective, the way that I enjoy RuneScape is usually on the skilling side of things, and this really affects. It really affects me and how I'm running the farm and what I'm doing with that content, or even if I'm going to be engaging in it in the future at all.
Yeah. And, this is another thing that's going to benefit me. Trait heredity has been increased. It's now easier to breed traits into animals born on the player-owned farm. And shiny boosting traits have all been doubled in effectiveness, and that's what my farm is at this point in time. It is a moneymaker to get animals with good traits and then sell them.
See, and where this benefits someone that is looking at the GP side of things, it's severely hurting someone that has theirs optimized like I do of being a seed producing
the seed
farm.
Producing?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of seeds?
Or beans.
The
magic seeds.
The ones you can plant in the
wood.
Yeah,
yes.
Like the woody beans. Right. Okay,
woody
those
beans,
ones.
yes.
Right.
That's how I have mine optimized.
Right.
And this is going. For one, I can't afford to feed the Zygomites, and I don't have that much time.
Yeah.
There's no way of doing that. The breeding chances are too low. If you're going to do that, then I don't even see why it's even staying. It might as well be ripped out if that's what you're going to do.
If you're going to try and think for your medium pens, you could go down to spiders. Those have a base of 50% success chance, so that'll go down to 10.
Yeah, it's too much. It's too much. The things that I find are hard to defend is the breeding chance and the upkeep.
Yeah, the upkeep one I can definitely agree with.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think people are upset about the XP nerf per se.
No, the XP nerf is definitely warranted.
Yeah, people aren't upset about that. It's that there was this alternative to this daily scape of tree runs, and that's going to be gone. It sucks to get a new toy and then have it taken away repeatedly.
Yeah, and the one way of preventing this from us having this discussion ever about the breeding side of it would have just been to not have have the ability to breed in the other pens. But what I tried to do before the show is I tried to go back to update 688 when we talked about this. We talked about it being a powerhouse. The live stream from that was hosted on Twitch and is just gone. So we can't go back and see exactly what Jagex said, whether it was their idea or the community's, and I'm not prepared to make a judgment on that without having all of the information on hand with that. If I was doing this and I wanted to take the holistic approach from top down, what I would do is I would leave the XP nerf as it is right now because that is warranted. I would increase the beans given on the small and medium creatures, I would leave dragons as they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also, rather than removing, or rather making it so hard for them to breed, I would just remove breeding in these other pens entirely, and I would add another breeding pen. Because the breeding pen won't suffer this 5 times penalty. That's the way I would take it.
You just brought a new angle I haven't had time to think about.
Mind blown.
No, I didn't think about an additional breeding pen, so I didn't have anything prepared.
Because that's what people are complaining about, right? And that fixes the problem while still dealing with the XP.
And there was a bottleneck when the farm released. Like I remember dealing with that. I mean, I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
That one breeding pen. It was so there does need to have. We do need a solution to that particular problem. Was allowing animals to be bred in the medium and small and large pens. Was that the right solution?
It honestly feels
know.
like a Band-Aid solution that was just put in.
Maybe that's the case. A second breeding pen, I feel like that's a good idea, but I don't, without being able to like see how these numbers would work out. I don't know if that would be enough or not.
And I think we also need to make the distinction is that people concerned about breeding in the small, medium, and large pens because they want more XP and more beans, or are they concerned about it for trying to get their breeding logs done?
Well, it's probably both. I mean, I'm sure there are players on each side of that. It's about, I mean, honestly, I know you're going to hate this, but it does come down to efficiency and how you're setting up your farm. It
does.
You want that to be as efficient as possible. That's why, like right now, we know what these numbers are. We know what the breeding chances are. We know we know how to optimize our farms for whatever you want it to be. We know how to do that now. And with this, I just feel like it's taken a hatchet to something that needed a scalpel. Or an innovative outside the box kind of solution, not just I for one don't understand why the breeding pens are being addressed, the breeding and the feeding. I didn't think there was a problem with those, but I thought this could be addressed from just an experience side.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the majority of people, you're optimized for getting beans. What do you put in your breeding pen?
It's like mice.
Okay. And, XP wise, I think you're going to be getting enough dragons that you're going to not really ever have room in the dragon pens, the large pens, for them to breed. At least the sense that I've got when I'm breeding my dragons, because there are some days I'll get 2 dragon eggs out of my breeding pen. So, with that being said, and just how long it takes them to grow, it comes down to an XP question for the small and medium pens. That's what this is all about, I think. It might be about, the comp requirements on it and completing breeding logs. That might be the case. But, they are entirely right in targeting the XP on this. And like I said from the outset, from my own perspective, each one of these changes is good for me because it allows me an opportunity to either make money or to be more efficient in my own unique way. Whether it's, selling food or selling honeycomb or, selling dragons with more acceptable traits to people based on what I have. So, while I absolutely love this update and I would like to see it in game as it currently is, I do think that perhaps some more internal discussion is required on the breeding side of it. And I would very much love to hear from someone who was around back then in September whether breeding in the small, medium, and large pens was something that was added because Jagex wanted to add it, or if it was a community request. And if it was a community request, why were the numbers not run on it so we could avoid this situation? And
well,
that's
at the
question
end of the
that
day,
comes
though, I
forward
mean,
anyways.
it's a decision that was made by Jagex, stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it doesn't really matter where the push came from getting it. To my recollection, and believe me, this is just a recollection, and we know memories can be foggy, but I thought the community had brought up the issue of breeding being too slow and bottlenecked, and this was the solution Jagex provided us. I don't remember people saying we want breeding in the individual pins. I only remember saying, okay, breeding is slow. We need to figure something out with this. So, but at the end of the day, you know, I mean, Jagex is the buck stops there, right?
Yeah. You're also not going to be able to keep animals happy with just traits. You're actually going to need to have food going for them. And that's why I think the honeycombs are going to be an interesting thing to look at as well. But, you know, we also need to mention here that the shiny boosting traits have also been all doubled in their effectiveness.
Yeah, I mean, it's something, but it's not enough of an offset, you know. At least, yeah, I don't think it's enough of an offset. What that is a bone to the people that are doing the reading log, right?
Yeah.
Like that's throwing a bone to them.
Yeah. They do say that they want, with these changes, to make the player-owned farm still the top method for farming XP. However, you'll be required to have a bit of upkeep on your farm, which, I mean, upkeep on your farm, we talked about, those numbers are absolutely absurd.
Yeah. Real farmers don't put that much time in their farms. I mean, seriously.
Well, I mean, if you count waking up at 6 a.m. in the dead of winter, right, when it's 30 below out there, and that's probably something that is a bit different based on climate and whatnot. But, anyways, I don't know if that I have much else to say about this until we get a picture of what it's actually going to look like going forward. I think you brought your end, I brought my end. That you know, I absolutely would love for this to come into game as it is, as I feel I can exploit from it. You bring forward the breeding ideas, that breeding is too hard with these changes. And, you know, I think when you split it down the middle, everybody agrees that the XP needs to be nerfed. And the issue, though, is that when you have all these animals coming out, you see what can happen with the farm. And, you know, there have been case studies and whatnot that there have been accounts with, 5 hours of playtime that got 99 farming with the player-owned farm. So, I don't know. I think we can move on, because at this point we're speculating, and I don't like speculating.
You know, I'm not. Well, and I won't speculate anymore. I'm going to leave it with this. Please give it more study before making any changes. That's what I want at this point. Maybe get some more opinion. Maybe dive into this more, because skillers have been taking it on the chin lately, and it's not fun. And some of it is legitimate. Like no one argues the XP nerf. Like, and I think that's a big give. I mean, for people that's their thing is XP. Like they're saying, okay, we acknowledge that. Just don't kill us with 80 hours on a dragon, man. Like, it's
Yeah.
So,
and
I'll just leave it at that, you know.
Yeah, and I'll just say again that yes, this nerf is good. Yes, from my perspective, the breeding changes are good. The food changes are good because I can maybe make some money off mushrooms and honeycombs. But if we're going to be doing this, we should go further and we should look at warbands. We should also look at PVM drops as well. If we're doing this like we do, if this is going to be the same thing that Hunter was, we should look at everything. That's would be my suggestion.
Yeah, and I hope it's not. My idea of making skilling great wasn't nerfing the XP and the way skills were. That wasn't. I was thinking outside the box of new methods and new mechanics and fun stuff. And
well, we did get that with safe cracking, and that's another thing that could be looked at.
Well, but you're ready to nerf that too.
Oh, I am.
Everything good that came out over the last year is being hit with a Nerf hammer. So I'm going, what the hell, man? You know, just saying.
Oh yeah, I am. I finished with the cherry on top of the waterfall. Is that if we're doing this, let's look at everything.
I'm not sure the waterfall is as relevant as it used to be with deep sea fishing.
Oh, it is when it comes to AFK. It's still the go-to for AFK fishing.
Are you AFK selfish? Right?
You can, but it's not as good XP as waterfall.
Well, I mean, that may be. That may be. I'm not giving an inch on the waterfall though. That's.
So am I hearing that's a topic for another day then?
Yeah, that's a topic for another day. Look, on a lore perspective, totally agree with you. From an XP perspective, topic for another day.
All right. Well, let's move on then. In closing, I think we both agree the XP nerf is warranted. I would say that the breeding changes are good, at least from my perspective, and need to go further if we want seats to become a relevant training method again. So that's where I'm at.
And I think it's too dramatic, and I want it to be studied more, and I want someone to represent this segment of the people that enjoy, skilling, essentially. I want a voice in the room for that. I can say, hey, the breeding chance and the feeding, those are too big. That's too much. Let's start with an XP nerf. See how it goes. What's wrong with that? If it's still too much, then okay, then maybe we'll deal with feeding. If it's still too much, okay, maybe we deal with breeding. But we don't have to do all this at the same time. Like, couldn't we try this incrementally and come to a solution that way?
And that might have been the way to do it without raising the ire of the community, is to just, slip these into patch notes a week at a time.
Not slip them in. Let the players know what's happening. But yeah, I think that would have been but that would have been better for everyone, because you could have seen, did what we just put in game, did we get the results that we're trying to achieve?
Right, but you can also you can also run test servers internally, and you can run statistical calculations to see what these changes are going to do for XP, and that is something as well that I think many players have not taken into account.
Yeah, I don't know how those calculations are made by the developers, because players make the calculations. They seem pretty on. I mean, of course they are. They're playing. they're actually playing. So I think I've covered everything that I can possibly cover from my side of things. I really hope that it's looked at, and I don't think these changes are good.
Okay.
But, I mean, that's kind of par for the course, right? Shane's never seen a nerf he didn't like, and I have to be convinced when it comes to a nerf. And You know what? I have been convinced when it
A
comes to
Nerf
the
that I
XP,
didn't
just
like
not
and
the
could go
others.
further.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because keep in mind, I come from the era of RuneScape Classic where it would take you years to even get a 99. And I have no
Yeah,
problem
no.
with that.
And I think it's good that you have that perspective and can bring that to the table. I think it's good that I bring a little bit more of a modern view of the XP gains and what players are playing for. Because I look at it like at the end of the day, right? When you play a game, you keep score, don't you?
Yeah.
And how do we keep score in RuneScape? It's experience.
XP.
Yeah, so love it or hate it, it's a thing, and it's important.
Indeed. All right, so our next topic is, of course, a live stream this week where they talked about changes to the weapon diversity beta as well as the bank rework beta, which both of these are coming next week.
I'm so excited for this. Like, this was the part of the live stream where I kind of perked up. In fact, I totally tuned out the first time I watched the live stream because I got bored with the Anachronia stuff.
Most of that we'd already seen before.
Yeah.
They also mentioned the Clan Cup, but I already talked about that.
Right. And so looking back over the notes for this one, once I saw that weapon diversity beta and the bank beta, so I read the notes and I went back and watched that part of the stream, and I am super excited about this.
Which I must say, we do have a very, very nice set of live stream notes written by Tycho, timestamps, direct quotes from the JMods, all included. Which is exactly how you want to see notes for a live stream, in my opinion. So thank you, Tycho, for doing that. They say fingers crossed. They hope the beta for weapon diversity and bank improvements will be launched next week. They're going to be combined into one, and I think the biggest thing that we need to take away from this weapon diversity beta is that weapons that weren't done previously are going to be done, and these include the short sword, rapier, hasta, claws, longsword, battle axes, warhammers, staves, wands, orbs, and books.
I am so excited. Finally, the battle axes are coming, and I know there's some not people aren't necessarily loving its effect, but I'm just glad it's got an effect. I'm just glad it's there.
Personally, I don't know why the staffs, wands, and orbs need that, because we have the effect of all the various spells, and those are, of course, the culprits for Fortic auto-attacking.
Yeah, and it seems like magic is in a pretty good spot. But
so I don't know why these are here. But anyways.
It's probably for just to keep things, just to keep the continuity of things, right? Like, if all the melees are going to have a special feature or effect, then I guess you have to do that on the other two sides of the triangle, right?
Yeah. Short swords will reduce your maximum hit damage by 1%, but increase your maximum hit damage by 3%, or your minimum hit damage by 3%, sorry. So it's decreasing the envelope, so you'll just be guaranteed to hit a bit higher. Stacks to 2% reduced and 2% reduced max and 6% increased minimum for dual wielding.
Nice.
I mean...
I don't know. It's all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's something.
I'm talking out of school whatsoever, man, because I'm not... I'm not proficient in combat per se.
Yeah, and we'll have to get David's opinion on this next week.
What kind of David for the
Rapier's chance for your abilities in combat to not incur global cooldown on your next ability. That's nice. 2% with a single rapier, 5% with dual wielding. That's good. Hastas have the ability to use two-handed weapon abilities while equipped, and no offhand exists, and no plans to make more. That's actually really good.
I'm super intrigued about a Hasta.
I'm trying to think what we got for high-level Hastas, though.
Oh, you don't.
Yeah.
It ends at gosh, I don't even think
Dragon.
Is it Dragon? Because I thought it was even lower than that. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, Dragon. Claws, while wielding claws in the main hand, 5% of damage given in a critical hit will be applied as extra damage over time, lasting 7.2 seconds. Remember where this came from? Well,
this was the old
Dragon Claw special.
Yes. I was excited about that one. That one made me smile thinking about that.
Scimitar. This was actually, they say this was actually the current Scimitar effect, and they have given Scimitars a new effect with this. For every 5% missing health of your target, you have a 0.5% increased critical hit chance, and this is doubled if you're dual wielding scimitars. So at 5% left on your target, you'll have a 9.5% chance to critically strike, and this will increase to 18% with 2 scimitars. That's going to be something else to see when we get high-end scimitars in game.
Yeah, I was just trying to think. I guess a Khopesh, is that considered a scimitar?
I think it is.
That's what I thought. So 17% would be significant.
Long swords, when you miss with an attack, gain a 5% accuracy buff for 10 seconds. Okay. Battle axes deal 0.5% more damage for every 2% of adrenaline above 80. They're trying to get people to not use abilities.
Are they?
With this one,
right.
I think.
I mean, and I think that is the criticism of this one. And I don't have any counter to it because
you're
like
going to every 2% adrenaline above 80. So at most, you're going to deal an extra 5% damage.
Yeah, I think that one will probably need some adjusting. Like I said, I've been so happy that they included the battle axes this time that I hadn't worried quite so much what the effect was. But even if you're using Revolution or full Revolution, like you're not going to get the effect out of this like that. So that does kind of suck a little bit.
And you'll have to ask, is it worth it to just use basics?
No, probably not. Probably not, but at least I could have them on and, well, no, I'd still get made fun of. I'd be like, what are you carrying that around for? I can't think. I was going to say maybe like if you're just doing, a Slayer or you're doing a less intense kind of combat, but even then you use your abilities. I mean, you want to maximize your abilities.
Right, and the highest battle axe we can get is tier 70.
Yeah. That's unfortunate.
Good for leveling up. Warhammer's basic abilities and auto attacks damage the enemies around your target in a 3x3 area.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah.
We'll talk more about these this week, but there was also the point made by Mod Shawnee that if you decide to spend an absurd amount of money on trying to make an item in game because of it being in the weapon diversity beta and everything is not final and you lose your money, that's your own risk to take.
Yes. I didn't sell when the maces were high.
Yeah, I thought people selling like that were stupid. Or people buying like that were stupid, to be honest.
Yes, and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to react at all. Like, whether it would have been good for me or not, I'm not going to react because it's a beta. You don't know how it's going to shake out at all. Like, I could have sold them and then turned around and it could have been worth 10, 20, 30, 40 more percent higher, afterwards. So it's like, I'm not doing anything until it's final.
Yeah. Also note that weapons that are specialized, like the Pterosaur Mole and Hex Hunter Bow, won't have a diversity effect applied because they have their own unique effect already, and it would make them far too strong.
Well, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because they do occupy that space.
Mm-hmm. They're going to be adding a shop to the beta area with all weapons included, including high-level armor, which, I think that's a mistake having that, but I guess that's what the players want, because, you're not going to have people testing with their actual weapons. Yeah. So,
see, I see that both ways. I mean, I think we still are a little shell-shocked from the EOC beta and how it was improperly used by, you know what I mean? But being able to use the stuff that for the elite PVM people, this is probably pretty important. You know, like they do need this to be able to accurately give good feedback. So
yeah, that makes
kind of
sense.
over a barrel on that one, you know.
And plus, I mean, you don't want to necessarily have to find areas for charges. If, you know, the weapon you use is just available, you can just claim it there and get 100% fresh one too. So that makes sense in that regard. And of course, we're getting the bank rework beta next week, which is pretty much the beta that we talked about, I think, 2 weeks ago now on live stream. So I don't think there's much else to say on that.
No, I'm just so excited. It's coming. Like, yay! Placeholder, shade, placeholder! Like, and they look like they're going to work really, really well. Like, you can take out a preset. It's not going to mess your whole bank up. Oh, I'm going to spend hours in that beta in my bank.
Yeah,
I guarantee it.
Bank standing. Alrighty. And finally this week, the RuneFest theme has been revealed that it is going to be focusing, of course, on dinosaurs and the Anachronia. And what everybody wanted from last year, the skilling chips are going to be back. Kind of disappointed that I missed out on those last year.
Yeah, that's always been a kind of fundamental part of RuneFest, hasn't it?
Yeah. Also, once again, they teased that they're going to be announcing something really big on the stage.
You know, I find it hard to believe that it's going to be too terribly big, right? Because it hasn't been in the last 2 years. Like, we haven't heard any groundbreaking type stuff, which I actually think has probably been a good thing. Then you don't end up with all the unfinished business that came out of the ghost of RuneFest past. But I don't know. I can't even speculate on what that would be.
I think it's that big January 2020 update they were talking about.
January 2020.
You remember they said that they're working on an update for early 2020. They announced it at the tail end of 2018.
Yeah.
That's probably what it is.
But I mean, it makes you wonder what on earth that could be.
Yeah, and we're not going to speculate on that because it's bad to speculate that far ahead.
Oh, yeah. I mean, geez, we got, what, three months till RuneFest even, or 2 months till RuneFest. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think we can move on, and that, of course, means it's time to talk about Patreon, which is always one of my favorite parts of the show because I get to talk to each and every one of you guys who have making that choice to support us on the podcast. And we were truly, truly grateful to everybody who has made that decision. And in particular this week, I would like to thank Arvids L., Brock H., Cass, Darren L., Diana, Kyle, Logan H., Rippeth, Tom V., Zachary K., and Zez. Thank you all of you for your support. It truly means the world to us, and it allows us to do exactly what we have been doing since, well, almost a year now. We recorded our 12th monthly bit last month, and we're about to record another one, and, you know, that poll ended in a tie, so I'm going to take my discretion and cast the final vote in that one. And with that being said, this month's monthly bit is going to be looking at the RuneScape soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a monthly bit that we've wanted to do for a long time, so thank you to everybody for finally letting us do that. And in case you're wondering what all this is about, we do a monthly bonus show. It's called The Monthly Bit. And for as little as $1 a month, you gain access to the entire back catalog of those monthly bits. You also gain a special mention in our show notes, early access to the show notes, the ability to join the roundtable, and, of course, vote on topics for the monthly bits. And amongst all of this, you're also helping fund the cost for hosting and production of RSBANDB Update. For $3 a month, you'll receive a special VIP rank on Discord, a special mention on the podcast at the start of the month, and access to high-quality stereo AAC versions of the show. And if you want to give the ultimate gift, at $5 a month, you'll receive a special shout-out on the podcast every week and exclusive access to the outtakes that we use for the clip show at the end of the year. And as I already mentioned, we do our monthly bit bonus show. This month is going to be on the RuneScape soundtrack. We also have Inside RSBANDB Update, which is an interview or a video at an inside look with our hosting and production team. We do one of those every month. And also the round table on the second Saturday of each month, where we basically sit around for an hour and talk about anything and everything RuneScape related. These are streamed live. Patreon supporters are encouraged to join in and can, of course, listen to them after the fact as well. And should we reach $99 a month, that'll be movie night in the RSBANDB Discord, where we run through our favorite movies, and you can expect some Star Trek to be included. So, once again, thank you, everybody. You can find out more at patreon.com/RSBANDB.
Thank you, guys.
How
many episodes of Picard will it take to equal a movie, you think, Shane?
All of them.
Cool. Let's binge them. If we ever make it there, we'll binge it.
Because the entire season is meant to be like a movie.
Oh, that would be so.
It's a 10-episode movie.
That'd be fun.
And also on that, we got the first official full-length trailer this past weekend. And, pardon the detour before we get to tech news, but in the trailer it was confirmed that in addition to Picard, we are seeing the return of 7 of 9 from Voyager and, of course, Data. Yes, they actually did say Data, not B4. And in an after-mentioned source, both Marina Sirtis and Jonathan Frakes are returning as Deanna Troi and Captain Riker, respectively, as well for the series.
Dude, I've got goosebumps right now.
I know. I know.
Oh, this is going to be so cool. Can't wait.
It's the Star Trek series everybody's wanted, set in the future, set after the events of Star Trek Nemesis and Voyager, and looking at some of the things that have happened in the timeline since, and bringing back some much-loved characters.
Yeah. It's going to be cool.
Yeah. And, it's going Borg with, of course, 7 of 9. So that should be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't realize she was Voyager. I remembered that character, but I thought she was at the end of Next Gen.
Nope.
I guess I must have watched more Voyager than I thought.
Season 4 of Voyager she came on. Anyways, let's get to the questions. Sorry about that.
We got
first one from Sunset Fish. With Double XP Weekend coming up, what do you consider to be your first RuneScape accomplishment, excluding any 99s and 120s? For me, it was gaining access to the Champions Guild. I know it's such a meaningless thing that it can be accomplished in a day now, but back then for me it was a nice thrill to open up the doors and to play with the chickens. For me, I think it would come down to either completing the Hero's Quest and unlocking the Hero's Guild for the Dragon Longsword and Dragon Battle Axe. Or no, sorry, Lost City was Dragon Longsword. That was one, too. That was good. But definitely the Hero's Guild for the Dragon Battle Axe. But also just working up enough money, running nature runes to get my first Amulet of Glory, because that was a great way to teleport around back then.
Oh, yeah. You'd have 10, 15 in your bank.
Yep.
Charge them up.
Yeah, I still have them. I should probably get rid of them.
Yeah. I probably have a stack somewhere.
Yeah, but we can use them for the teleport compactor.
Yes. Yeah, you still can do that.
Ingenuity of Humans, I believe it is, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that one. So that might be something.
Passage of the Abyss.
Passage of the Abyss. There we go. That's the one. So yeah, I'd chalk it up to being one of those two, either unlocking either the Dragon Longsword with Lost City or the Dragon Battle Axe with Heroes Guild, or just getting my first Amulet of Glory.
Okay. I think for me, going back to some of those mentioned earlier in the podcast, but for me, it was getting the Legends Cape, because that was my first, what I considered cape of achievement, substantial. I felt like I did something cape. And I can remember doing I forget what the name of the quest was, but it was down there in the jungle. And it was pretty long. It was pretty hard.
The Legends Quest?
Yeah, it might have just been Legends Quest. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, it might have just been Legends Quest. And I dealt with, like, it was the worst lag for like 2 days. And I just remember finally getting through that quest and finally walking through that gate. And yeah, it felt good. It felt good. And then I put that thing up on my wall in my house. Never to be seen again, apparently, because I can't tell you last time I took it out. But that was a big deal. It was a big deal. I even wore it for a while until I got my first 99. So yeah, I'm proud of my Legends cape.
Yeah, and see, these are things we don't even think of anymore at this point in time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was. You had to do a lot of quests to get.
Yeah, 107
you know what I mean?
points. That was practically everything.
Yeah, it was a lot back then.
Yeah. So, Sunset Fish, I'd like to know why you wanted access to the Champions Guild. I mean, sure, the chickens and whatnot are good, but was there anything else involved with that too? I don't know. Let us know. All right, from Tycho. Dear RSBANDB, Tycho Elf here with a number of questions regarding player choice that I really want to not only hear your thoughts on, but why you think that's the case. No short answers. This needs to be looked at through and through. As I returned from the wilderness of the Nordic lands, I found myself in a new wilderness, Anachronia. Exploring this island, I discovered that one of the base camp buildings, the Slayer Lodge to be exact, offers the ability to acquire the perks of the Slayer helmet worldwide without wearing it. From my point of view, this has a negative impact on player choice on what to wear when on a Slayer task. Previously to this update, you had to choose between tank, power, or Slayer helmet. And while I know that the common argument is that the Slayer helmet always wins, thus there was never a choice, remember that it takes 3,000 Slayer points and various components from Slayer before it becomes the obvious choice it is today for experienced Slayers. That's true. If you're leveling up, the Slayer helmet isn't necessarily as powerful as we see it as. Players might not realize it, but it's one of the most long-term investments in the game in terms of equipment. But nevertheless, shall the base camp remove the most iconic symbol for Slayer from our heads? Not to speak of the niche of wearing protective armor against Armored Spectres or Dust Devils, but what are your opinions on this? Is this a truly good step forward for Slayers, or is this reducing the player's option in the game? So let's attack this one first, because the next one's about weapon diversity beta.
Okay.
It's a good choice because it's just like removing the comp cape from always needing to be worn in the cape slot if you have a comp cape. It allows you to wear other capes and allows Jagex to produce other best-in-slot capes. Whereas with this, once you unlock it, and, you know, it's Tier 3 Slayer. That's a long way away. A long way away. It will allow you to choose another best-in-slot helmet that you could consider to wear. And I think that, you know, Tycho says choice is being removed in this front, but I come from the argument that if you're always wearing the Slayer helmet, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, that's my sentiments exactly.
Because, you know, Tycho is right that there is choice. There's choice and downsides, but when you're dealing with a game as expansive as RS, you want the choice to be a series of positive choices that you can make. You don't want to choose the worst option.
Right.
That's the way that I see it.
Well, and I understand the point he is making for the mid to lower levels. That's a legitimate point, but I tend to agree with you. I feel like this actually increases choice because I know the way that I do Slayer, and I mean, I'm 120 Slayer. A lot of people are. If you really didn't have a choice, you were going to wear that Slayer helmet for that. Yeah. For that,
and that's
boost.
The problem.
Yeah, and here's the thing: like, there were many times that I would make different Slayer sets just to see. You know, like I made a Slayer set out of bandos one time just to because of upkeep. You know, like let's try to do a Slayer set where I didn't have to keep repairing everything. But then I've also done it with like the Sliskate armor. Well, all these have a set effect that you're not getting because you're wearing a Slayer helmet. So and
That's the
especially
biggest reason right there.
It is, and so the Sliskate armor, I actually really liked it because you can, if you have the upgraded stuff, you can pick an effect from any of the War Priest. So I would always do the Tuska, just a big crit, bam, hit, and you could have that armor do that, but you had to have the helmet on, because if you don't have the helmet, you don't get the effect. So I would, I put all this time and effort and money into making a really good set of Slayer gear that I didn't even have to change very often because it was hybrid, and it was kind of meaningless at the end of the day, because once I started going and doing Slayer, I'm like, oh, well, it's better to use my helmet. So that got taken away from me essentially as a choice.
And there's the nail on the head.
Yep.
So, and I mean, Tycho presents it as well, but I honestly think it's better to maybe making a choice of positives rather than a choice of negatives. And that's what it comes down to. Taking another step forward with the Weapon Diversity Beta Batch 2 has been announced. With the last round of weapons that wasn't in the first round will be included, completing the armory. However, let's not forget that diversity does not only come from weapons, but also from armor. Today we have 4 types of armor: tank, power, hybrid, and all. Tank reduces damage when taken, power increases damage, and both hybrid and all armor are almost identical in its ability to provide equal protection against all styles, and all does not carry accuracy penalties for any style. This does not make any sense, having 2 sets that are identical yet named differently, and to make it worse, it's disgraced by the PvM community, as there's very few scenarios in which you must switch combat styles in the middle of battle, and yet not having a set of the same style. While I know that you, Shane, and Tannis aren't the most bloodthirsty PvMers in RuneScape, I want to ask you this. If you were both tasked with giving hybrid armor a new effect to create more diversity, what effect would you give it? Remember that it must create a scenario where it's better than all the other sets in a specific purpose. Thanks for your time, and I'm looking forward to your long, detailed answer this weekend. Don't forget to enjoy the sun while it's out, because soon winter will come and bury our beaches under a thick layer of snow. Greetings from Tycho Elf.
He missed out. He should have said winter is coming.
Yeah. Slayer.
For the hybrid?
Yeah, that's where you use it.
Yeah. No, well, right. In fact, I just detailed the set you use and why.
And I think that's the use for hybrid right there, Slayer. I mean, personally, I hate hybrid armor. And
I am not a huge fan because of the 15 level.
Yeah, that too.
Hit that you take. That's why. That's why most people.
That's precisely why I hate it, and why I think it's okay for Slayer. But even then, I mean, to get something that would be respectable for most Slayer tasks, to have a 15 tier penalty, you need something that would be tier 90 hybrid. To be operating at tier 75, which, I mean, hello, we don't have.
Right. So, and my solution to this is, well, it's not a solution, but this is my idea, my suggestion with this is, let's deal with the weapon diversity now. But if there does come a time where we want to deal with armor, I think we should have a representative of each one of those sets, tank, power, and hybrid, in each tier.
Yeah, that would be something worthy to strive for. How you want to
make that happen is completely up to them, what have you. But I would like to me, that would give much more of a choice. And yeah, to be able to pick those things. I would love to wear tank armor. I would love to wear level 90 tank armor, but I can't do raids, so I'll never have it.
Yeah. I see hybrid armor actually as the event armor, the event reward armor.
That's true.
And that's probably the best place every time.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the Sliskate armor is I mean, that's a great go-to Slayer armor. Because you can, if you have the War Priest stuff, you can put that effect on it. It degrades really slowly. And you never basically have to take it off for Slayer. You just load that up with Genocide and Undead, Dragon Slayer, you know, like all the good stuff, and you are a slaying machine, man. And I can't think of anywhere else that it would actually be good.
You see,
I can't think of anywhere where it would be good. Yeah. Yeah, it's the redheaded stepchild, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's funny because back in the day, Void is hybrid, and that used to be something that was very well coveted. But, I mean, that's all gone now.
Well, and that's because Void had that crazy power and accuracy bonus. Yeah. So you took the hit, you know, that was like the glass cannon armor, like literally.
Which doesn't make sense.
No.
We're talking about before EOC on that one, to be clear.
Yeah.
Before EOC, Void is now all armor. Thank you, Tycho, for that.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That does make a difference.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm not the best person to ask about this. I hate hybrid armor.
You know, I liked it at first, but when we first got our first set of like War Priest, like I wore that for a while.
But it was tier 75.
That was the problem. And that was a problem because once you started getting to even higher level Slayer, it wasn't all that good anymore. As compared to other armor I could use. I just don't know where. I don't know what effect you could give it because I don't know where you can use it other than Slayer. Because he's right. You're not going to be switching styles.
Maybe we can piggyback this in on the first part of this question by making a tier 90 Slayer hybrid armor set that you make with an insurmountable amount of Slayer points that synergizes with the Slayer helmet and is hybrid.
And then that would
give you a reason to wear the Slayer helmet as part of a Slayer armor set effect that is hybrid.
Yeah, and maybe like if you're using this for certain, or if you're using this on Slayer creatures, maybe it's only
on
10
Slayer
levels
creatures
down
only
instead of 15. Yeah, or Slayer creatures only. I'd be cool with that. I think that would actually be a decent. I can get behind that one.
Okay, there we go. Problem solved.
There we go.
Next.
Way to go, Shane.
But yeah, ever since EOC came out, I have just been one to optimize for whatever I'm doing. I will wear magic tank or power armor. I will wear magic or melee tank or power armor. I will wear ranged tank or power armor if I need it. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And that is what I love about the trimmed masterwork from the mining and smithing rework. It is excellent for bossing. I can go to Vindicta and I don't even need to use food with that set effect.
You don't use food at Vindicta?
No. Good
job.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a hungry boy, so I mean, I'll eat anywhere I go. But the masterwork is beautiful for the bosses that I can do.
Yeah,
Vindicta's one of them.
Alrighty, well, thank you for that question, Tycho, and also thank you, Sunset Fish. If you guys want to send your own questions in, you can email them to questions@rsbnb.com. You can also DM us on Twitter @rsbnb, or you can leave your questions at update.rsbnb.com/ask. So with that being said, let's move on to tech news right now. As we talked about last week, Facebook is running up against a $5 billion fine from the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission in the United States. And as a result of this, Facebook responded this week saying that, quote, FTC agreement brings rigorous new standards for protecting your privacy. And these are, of course, all in relation to one of the biggest ever fines that the FTC lobbied against Facebook. And what Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook says with this is that this marks a fundamental shift in the way we approach our work, and it will place additional responsibility on people building our products at every level of the company. And, we saw this back in May with the April Fool's-esque post of Mark Zuckerberg wanting to reorientate Facebook as a privacy-focused company. And we all laughed at the time, and we can see now that they probably knew that this fine was on its way. And they have an interesting infographic here. And they say that they'll build privacy into every product, including new privacy protections at every step, new monitoring and reporting obligations, and privacy risks are documented and resolved. Also, stricter compliance measures and independent oversight of privacy, including reporting to a committee dedicated to privacy, independent privacy assessments to the FTC and board, and process similar to how our financial controls at Facebook work. And this, of course, all resolves around the Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal from last year.
Right. The sad thing with this is it sounds like it's a huge hit, right? A $5 billion, I don't know what you call it, $5 billion fine or whatever.
Yeah, fine.
But it barely scratches the surface, and they just figure that as the price of doing business. It just gets rolled into the price of doing business. I don't know if we're going to get a change unless people are held accountable for the decisions that they are making.
Yeah, and you see the thing is that there's no controls or no new controls over how data can be shipped around Facebook and can be sold, right? That's not mentioned here. This just controls against breaches like Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah.
And it's a nice happy face for Facebook because Mark Zuckerberg had to do this because there were rumblings that at the end of May the board was actually going to vote to have him removed as director, but that never happened. And this is something that, of course, is going to be a concern going forward for many people because, back in the day, 8 years ago or so, there were many people on Facebook who used it as, a social network as it was designed, right? But now I think the majority of it has shifted to an older audience and use on Messenger, really. I think that's what they have, and that's why they need to do this rebrand. So.
Yep. I don't know how this is going to. I'm guessing taking a $5 billion fine is not going to be good for their Libra endeavor that they're trying to do. The future.
I think with Libra, Libra is actually designed to move them in this new direction of being privacy focused, believe it or not. Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't even know what to say about Facebook anymore, man. I don't know.
I mean, we got the fine that we wanted, right? It just doesn't change the public perception.
We got the fine, but at some point, can we please start holding CEOs accountable for doing
But
bad
you see, the
things?
thing is, if you do that, it becomes almost dangerous to start a business.
Isn't that part of the whole risk
Well, it's supposed to
ideology
be
that I hear
risk.
all the time?
It's supposed to be a risk from a monetary sense, not a risk for your own personal life and going to jail.
Well, it's not. If you don't break the law, we're all at risk then, right?
I mean, at that
you're
point,
never at risk if you're not doing something wrong.
At that point, you're fostering down the line of, corporations are people too, if you want CEOs to be responsible in that regard. And
I don't know how on earth you just did that. I'm going to have to study what just happened here. Because my view is like completely opposite. Corporations are not people, and how you just turned that, you should be on Fox. Like that's beautiful. I respect it. I wholeheartedly disagree with it, but wow. Yeah.
I mean, it was there. That is what I think people want Facebook to be accountable for. But at the same time, how do you make a company accountable for its billions of users? And, I think this is another piece of tech news we were looking at, is that the U.S. Department of Justice wanted to begin looking at antitrust lawsuits on a number of companies out there, right? And Facebook should be one of them that's going up first, but no, they're going after Google first. So I don't know. I mean, this, I agree with
antitrust in America will never happen.
I agree with you. On the surface, nothing here is going to change on this. So, and I mainly just wanted to report this to the listeners, but I'm with you. I don't think anything's going to change in Facebook. So I'm ready to move on to the next tech news if you are.
I am.
All right. Apple unfairly dominates the iOS App Store search results, according to a new study that was done by the Wall Street Journal. In particular, if you search for apps like Maps, and another one would be music, podcasts, Apple's apps are ranked first more than 60% of the time, whereas apps that generate other revenue like music and books showed up in the first 95% of related searches. And on this, Apple customers have a very strong connection to our products. This is what they have to say, and many of them use search as a way to find and open their apps, Apple said in a statement. This customer usage is a reason that Apple has strong rankings in search, and it's the same reason why Uber, Microsoft, and many others have high rankings as well. And, this is true because if you go to the search on your iPhone, you will effectively be able to see all the other apps that are available there for that. And in addition to searching on your phone, it will search on the App Store and allow you to see it. So.
See, I've never even used my phone like that. I've never searched to find my stuff. I mean, maybe that's legitimate. I don't know. Maybe it's all.
Yeah, I don't use it that way, but that's Apple's defense.
Right, and
for it.
Regardless of their defense, I'm just going to say that I remember Google just went through this not too long ago, right? And my position was, of course, they're going to put their products first. I don't necessarily see something wrong with that, and I kind of take the same view when it comes to Apple.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
And we have to ask the question: should a company who runs an app store put their results first?
I don't even know how it's a question, honestly. That is an end user. That's something that you need to educate the end user on more so, I think, than changing how they're doing business. You need to know that if you're using Apple, then of course Apple stuff is going to come up first. Keep scrolling if you want to see something else. Same with Google, same with anything you're going to be using.
Also, just for what it's worth, I just did a quick search for Maps on the iOS App Store, and the first result is a paid ad for Google Maps. Ahead of Apple Maps.
Okay.
Second, after that, is Google Maps' actual result, not the ad.
So this might not be as...
I search for
dire.
music. The first result is an ad for Audible, followed by Apple Music. Spotify is fourth. YouTube Music is fifth.
That one's a little bit surprising. I mean, I would have figured Spotify would be a little higher.
TV, first one is the Apple TV result, but there's an ad for some service I've not heard of referred to as Tubi. And, this is the thing. Obviously, they're not looking at the ads here for this. And this kind of just pulls the rug out from this argument, because if anybody can purchase an ad to be first on the App Store, then there's no potential problem with that, is there? And maybe that's another way Apple's insulating itself on this.
It could be, yeah. And I mean, you know how I am. I'm not somebody that gives big, huge corporations the benefit of the doubt on stuff, but I really don't think they're doing anything wrong here in this particular case.
Yeah, and I think this comes from an Android perspective as well, where I, of course, can't search in the Android App Store, but I would imagine that, the answer to that is, hey, install your own other app store, right?
Yeah.
So I think we can leave that one behind. It is a bit of an issue if there's no ads. And I mean, if you are wanting to see true competitive nature, you have to ask, why are these apps showing up in the search? Well, it's because Apple made the decision that, hey, users can uninstall our apps. And they need to show up in the App Store because of that. And it's on an iPhone, so surely those ones are going to be the most used.
Yeah.
And, I want to believe and I want to show that, that there should be something that that companies should be held to this account like you. But I think everything going on here is just fine. So
I agree.
All right. Next piece of tech news. We were initially going to discuss something else, but I'm changing this up with some late-breaking news here. Apple is going to acquire the majority of Intel's smartphone modem business. They have signed an agreement. Apple has signed an agreement with Intel to acquire roughly 2,200 Intel employees. This transaction is valued at $1 billion, will close the fourth quarter of this year. And because of this, Apple will be able to develop future wireless technologies going into the iPhones in 2020 and beyond. And Apple says that Intel CEO Bob Swan says that this agreement allows us to focus on developing technology for the 5G network while retaining critical intellectual property and modern technology that our team has created. We have long respected Apple, and we're confident that they provide the right environment for this talented team and these important assets moving forward. We're looking forward to putting our full effort into 5G where it most closely aligns with the needs of our global consumer base, including network operators, telecommunications equipment manufacturers, and cloud service providers. You know what this means now, right?
We might get 5G.
Yeah, and Apple can now produce an iPhone with silicon made from top to bottom, purely designed and produced by Apple. Meaning they don't need
from top to bottom.
Yeah, so it means that they can produce the CPU, they can also produce the modem as well, and really the only things that they need to contract out for are now the screens. And there's a really good reason for them doing this. You know what that is?
No.
China and Huawei 5G.
Yeah, I'm just thinking though. I thought vertical integration in a capitalist environment can be bad.
But that's what Apple has built its entire company on, going back to the 80s, is that integration. The entire stack. And, they definitely want to do that with Apple. With the iPhone business. And they even in this press release point out that they revolutionized personal technology, as they say, in 1984 with the Mac. And that's exactly what it was. That same integration from top to bottom of producing the entire hardware, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is true. I wonder what that means for Intel, though. Like, are they still going to be able to push the next generation of
they'll still be able to push the next generation of processors,
kind of...
and if anything, it'd probably make them better because they can offload the wireless part to Apple, right?
Okay.
If anything,
I'm trying to find the upside for them.
Yeah, it allows Intel to be more focused on, just producing the desktop chips as they always have. The downside potential of this is that if any Android manufacturer wanted to use Intel modems, they're kind of out of luck now, as that'll be largely integrated into Apple.
Well, I guess I'm going to be with Apple for a while, probably. Looks like. Just don't make me buy a 10. Don't make me buy the 10. I'll be happy.
Yeah. I'm waiting for next year. Waiting for next year already. So we'll see. But anyways, I don't really have much else to say on that one. It's some late breaking news. We'll have to wait to see what this does for the 2020 iPhones. But it is definitely a big move that Apple can now produce this in-house. All right.
5G, baby.
Let's move on to our achievements of the week.
All right. So we have some cool achievements, starting with Merle Vick with 99 Dungeoneering on July 24th. Waffletopia with 99 Attack on July 24th. We have 1S with 99 Prayer on the 24th. 1S with 99 Runecrafting on July 24th. It's an odd pair, but cool. We have Zach Master with 99 Crafting on July 24th. 1S again with 99 Fletching on the 23rd. 1S with 99 Thieving on July 23rd. 1S with 99 Farming on July 23rd, probably from the POF. And Roho with 200 mil Farming on July 23rd. Nice job, guys.
All right, continuing that on, Patapola with 99 Divination on July 23rd. 1S again, completing everything with 99 Crafting on the 23rd. Moving on to the 22nd, we have Nighthog, 1 with 99 Defense. Alex Peaks with 99 Farming. I know that guy. He's really nice. Skeets with 120 Slayer on the 21st. Harlot Man with 99 Mining. Coded Ninja on July 20th with 99 Thieving. Wolfotopia with 99 Hunter on July 19th. Also on July 19th, we have Zach Master with 99 Fletching. Derpalt New with 120 Magic on July 18th. Lord Gimli with 99 Strength on July 17th. That's actually a really interesting name. I'd like to know
I love the name.
Origins
Gimli.
of Lord Gimli.
Woo.
And Jam Andy 52 with 200 million Firemaking XP on July 17th. Nicely done, everyone. Nicely done.
Very
all
cool.
around.
Very cool.
Do you have a pick of the week for us?
I do.
Okay, what do you got?
So last Friday, I was on vacation, and we took my daughter to see a movie.
Uh-huh.
A movie that I somehow never got to watch the original version. And of course,
is it The Lion King?
The Lion King. Yeah.
Okay.
I never saw The Lion King. I was older by the time it came out, you know what I mean? So I just never saw it. But we went to the movies and saw that Friday, and I know people are probably getting a little bored with the Disney live, movies and all that, but this one was really cool. Like, it was really cool. I'm actually glad I never saw the original. Like, I'm glad the first time seeing it was I saw it like this, because as someone that loves technology, Shane, you should see it. Like,
yeah, just the animation of it looks absolutely astounding. I'm gonna break some hearts here and say that I absolutely hate The Lion King, the story behind it and whatnot.
Oh, Shane.
So as a result for that, I won't go see that unless someone wants me to. But
it's so good though. Like it was really good. Like seeing it like this. I mean, I don't know what it was like in the animated version. I never saw that, but watching this, like it's just so well done. I absolutely loved it. I absolutely dearly loved it. I think everyone should go and see it, because even if you did like see it in the 90s when it came out and stuff, like if you're taking your kids now and letting them like experience that and kind of have a little nostalgia break for you, it's just awesome. It's a great family movie. Yes, there are moments that if you have small children, you
Yeah.
might need to warn them about.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
You know, but that's every Disney movie, right? Like, I don't know what it is with Disney and having
Dark.
two parents that live, but they don't like to do that very often. You know, but even my wife was in tears from time to time just from it, and I mean, I never thought I'd saw like lions fight like that. That was so cool, man.
Yeah,
it was really, really good.
You know, I do give the the whole realistic aspect of it, that everything is so real now compared to how it would have been before, right? Because it was just animated, and you can't.
Yes,
like these lions aren't real, but they look real, right?
They look so real. Like, and to look at these and to think we come all this way from Toy Story. Wow.
Yep.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
And, in some ways, I'd like to see a movie that is done in one of our video game worlds. And, no one shoot me for this, but I'd like to see an Overwatch movie. Just to see how they can tie all this together with the 3D animation and whatnot. But I think that's a good pick of the week, even though I dislike it.
They have short Overwatch videos, Shane, but I don't think you'd like them.
No, I know.
But yes, no, take your family to go see The Lion King. It's a great movie, and it's shot for shot, like, to the original. Like, this thing should win awards for cinematography, and it's so beautiful. Like, it's just so beautiful. And like I said, it's shot for shot. It's pretty much the same dialogue. I only know that because of what I've read after going and seeing it. Because I didn't even realize that, like I didn't know it was shot for shot.
I thought there were going to be some differences as well, but that's good to hear.
There's a few tiny little differences, but the tiny little differences actually just gave more substance, more backstory, more reason. Like, just, I don't even know what I can say. I can't. Is it possible to spoil a movie that is from the 90s? Like,
Your call.
I don't know.
Your call.
I'm just going to say there is more reasoning behind some of the scenes, so you understand it more. Like, it makes more sense now. Whereas
the graphics
before,
and whatnot, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are reasons for certain characters being where they are, whereas in the original, they were just there, and there wasn't really an explanation of why they were there at that time. But in the movie, they did kind of add around that a little bit. But seriously, it's very, very minimal. Very minimal.
I will say I've always wanted to see John Oliver moved into something that's more suitable for him, having him be
so
Zazu.
Good.
If he could stay Zazu for everything he does, I'd be perfectly happy.
He was so good in it. Yeah, Zazu was great. And Seth Rogen, I think it was Seth Rogen, is it? That was the Warthog.
Okay, he can stay there too. He can stay there too.
Yeah, it was awesome.
In case you can't tell, I'm not fans of those two people.
But I like them. I mean, they were great in the movie. Like, Akuma Matata, Shane Akuma Matata.
All right, so with that, let's move on. And, I think we should talk about this. I was asked to talk about this by a listener by the name of Kyle, and wants to know, and what have we been doing section. What are we going to be doing for Double XP weekend, and what have we been doing? So I'll let you go first.
All right, so this week I have been mining on Anachronia with the main, just so that I have a chance of getting resources for Anachronia while I'm there. So that's why I've been doing my mining there. And with my junior account, I decided, what would be better than to do some summoning over Double XP weekend. The only problem was I didn't have hardly any charms, and I got really, really bad combat stats because it's a alt, and my alt is, a skilling alt pretty much. And so I have been camping in the Slayer Tower, killing blood velds for charms. But it's worked out pretty well. I made it up to 70 magic and 70 defense. So, and I've got, a couple thousand charms to play with. So the goal is to get to 75 and get that wreck out of the way for Priv. So if I can get to 75, summoning and dungeoneering this weekend with my alt, I will consider it a success.
All right. So summoning and dungeoneering, you said you're going for on your alt?
Yeah, don't hate me, but yeah,
Okay.
dungeoneering.
Yeah. Well, I might message you then, because I know there are some plans this weekend for potentially running some dungeons around the RSBANDB group. So
that'd be fun.
I will keep you on the list if you want to run your alt with that. And I mean, we don't care. We can run whatever floors possible. So
that'd be wonderful. I'll probably do some cleanup tonight just so I can what do they call that?
Reset prestige.
Reset. Yes, yeah. Reset my prestige.
Okay. As for me, I got back late Monday and early Tuesday, so hence why there was no weekly bite this week. But since then, just been doing that agility still. I made and sold my first Codex page while I was away. It sold for 50 mil, believe it or not, still.
Wow.
Yeah. Last weekend, a Codex page sold for 50 mil.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. So I'm still running Anachronia agility. Last double XP weekend was Herblore. I'm not doing another expensive thing for double XP weekend.
So I think some money.
Yeah, I think I'm just probably going to go woodcutting.
Hey,
Crystallize
don't forget
isn't
your island. Don't forget your island.
Get
your
island?
Supplies. Yeah, get your supplies. Start doing some island hopping, man. You can't beat golden bamboo.
Right. Crystallize, is that affected by double XP weekend? I don't know.
The XP that you're getting would be affected.
Yeah.
So
I would think that there should be something.
Oh, that's right. So yeah, that's what so you're looking at golden bamboo and crystallize.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crystallize at Menaphos.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
You got some plans. Ain't gonna cost you a dime.
That's right, and that's the beauty of it. And unfortunately, I won't be able to make anything back from it either. So
that's true.
But I decided woodcutting would be the next 120, and I always find woodcutting annoying to do because if you want to do crystallize, that's fairly click intensive. But otherwise, I mean, if you wanted to make money, that's elders, and that's not much XP. So I think the second best thing is probably crystal trees, right?
Yeah, if you want something like that, it's going to be steady.
Yeah, steady and relatively AFK. So, all right. I believe that wraps up this episode of RSBANDB Update. Sorry, everybody, that there was no weekly bite this week, but I just got back really late on Monday and seeing what was here. I knew we were doing the show on Thursday, so I thought, okay, we can wait for that. We'll be sitting pretty this week for the episode. We, of course, had a wallop to discuss with the farming changes, and hopefully we have contributed well to that discussion. If you guys enjoyed that, let us know. If you guys want to join us in game on Double XP Weekend, the Friends Chat is Bits Bytes, or you can join our Discord at rsbnb.com/discord. And, of course, thank you once again to our Patreon supporters for allowing us to record that episode on the RuneScape soundtrack. That is going to be amazing and fun at the same time. So with that being said, we'll be back next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. Take care, everyone.
See ya.